Hey guys, how you going? In this video I'll be showing you how to create a pricing table which looks something like this using pure HTML and CSS. So essentially the main benefit of this solution is that it requires no external dependencies aside from a custom font if you choose to use that custom font. And you may have seen something like this on many different websites before, and it's good because it allows you to present to your user a bunch of different payment plans or costs per month for a particular service, and it allows you to also list various different benefits of each plan, and then of course some sort of action to purchase or buy that product or service. So it's very easy to do using pure HTML and CSS. So let's get right into it by going inside this tab right here and starting from scratch. So inside the text editor, it looks something like this as of right now. So first, let's make a new CSS file and call this file pricing-table.css, and essentially inside here, it's going to store all of the CSS for the pricing table. Back in the index HTML, let's of course include that link by saying link for pricing-table.css. So now we can of course move on to doing the HTML and the CSS for the pricing table. I do want to say that we're going to be essentially working on each one of these individual pricing plans for the majority of this video, and then at the end we'll essentially use Flexbox to lay them out just like this. So for now, and for most of the video, we're going to be working on the design of a pricing plan element, this guy right here. So anyway, let's go back inside here and begin on the HTML for a pricing plan. So let's make a new section element with a class of pricing-plan. This right here is going to represent one of those plans. Inside here, let's make a new div with a class of pricing-plan __ header, and this right here is going to contain the title and the short summary, essentially just that green bit up top. Okay, and then inside here we can make a new h1 tag with a class of pricing-plan __ title. Inside here we can say, for example, starter plan, and then make a second heading element, this time at h2, with a class of pricing plan __ summary. Inside here we can say, for example, for those getting started. So obviously on my channel I like to use BEM, or the block element modifier, CSS naming convention. So I'm using the __ sort of style here, but you can of course name these classes whatever you like. So now saving this and refreshing the browser gives us something like this. So now let's move to the CSS and begin work on each one of these elements. So inside here, let's first target the main pricing-plan class, and for this we're going to firstly just say width and set this to be a fixed width of 300 pixels. Obviously, if you're trying to support mobile or particular use case, you may want to change this width, but for me 300 pixels works perfectly fine. I'm also going to say border radius and make this 25 pixels. Also a box shadow of 0.05 pixels, and then RGBA at 0.00 and then 0.2 for a nice opaque box shadow, as well as an overflow of hidden. This is essentially going to ensure that the box shadow is going to take place even if you have other elements on top of that or within the actual container. Also down here we can say font family and make this sans serif for now. The last thing we'll do is actually include that custom font. We can also say font size 16 pixels to guarantee a value for base font size. A line height of 1.5 across the board for the pricing plan, as well as a color, and this will be a sort of mid to dark gray, and a margin of 15 pixels. So now saving this and refreshing gives us this right here. So now let's move on to of course doing the header and then the title and the summary. So back inside here, let's move on to targeting the pricing-plan __ header class, and for this one we can just say padding and make this 25 pixels, as well as a background of hash and then 009578, that is the color for decode, as well as a text color of white. Saving this and refreshing gives us this right here. Let's now move on to the title. So inside here, we can target the pricing dash plan underscore underscore title class. We might also just target, as well as this, the pricing plan underscore underscore summary class. So of course both the title and the summary here, and we're going to make these both a margin of 0 and a text align of center. Of course, the margin here is supposed to remove the default margining that gets set by the browsers, okay? And of course, the text line of center is going to center that text. We can also say down here, pricing dash plan underscore underscore title. And for this, we can of course say, for example, font size 1.5 EM and font weight 400. So by default, of course, the browser likes to add a font weight for H1 tags and H2 tags. So we're going to make this back to the normal font weight for this particular design, and the font size of 1.5 essentially just means 150% of the current font size of 16px. So now saving this and refreshing gives us something like this. Perfect. So now let's move on to the actual summary. And for this one, it's going to be very similar to the title. We can just say pricing plan underscore underscore summary, and we can say right here font size and make this 1 EM and a font weight of 300. The reason why I'm saying 1 EM is just for consistency with the title. Of course, you know what, actually, my mistake, it's actually to, of course, bring the H2 sizing down to the 1 EM or 16px. And a font weight of 300 is used here to make it have a bit of a thinner look, so something like this. But on your PC, it may not be noticeable right away, the 300 font weight, but it will definitely be noticeable once you include the custom font. But for now, let's make this 300 and then 400 up here. So now we can move on to doing the middle bit with the list of features and things like that. So back inside the index HTML, let's make a new div right here with a class of pricing dash plan underscore underscore description. And of course, this here is going to be the middle section container for all of the features and things like that. So we can make a new unordered list with a class of pricing dash plan underscore underscore list. And this unordered list right here is going to be for the features. However, the class of pricing plan list is intended to be generic and not just for the features. Anyway, let's make a new ally here with a class of pricing plan underscore underscore feature. And for this is going to be one of those individual features with the check mark next to it. So let's say, for example, feature number 1. And I'll do the same thing twice more for 2 and then 3. So now saving this and refreshing gives us something like this, and to be honest, it actually looks not too bad so far, but of course we're going to be styling them to include that check mark, and we're going to add some spacing between each one of those features. So let's go inside the CSS and firstly target the pricing dash plan underscore underscore description class, and for this we're going to simply say padding and make this 25 pixels. We're then also going to target the class of pricing dash plan underscore underscore list, and for this we're going to say padding, make this 0 and a margin also of 0 to remove some of the default styles set by the browser for unordered list elements. So now saving this and refreshing gives us something like this. Let's move on to each one of those individual features to create that check mark. So back inside here, let's target the pricing dash plan underscore underscore feature class, and for this we're going to remove the default bullet or the default bullet style for the list. So we're going to say list dash style and set this to none just to demonstrate. I'll save this and refresh. As you can see now, the bullet list is gone. So anyway, let's go back inside here and also set a margin of 0 just to remove the default styles once again set by the browser. We're going to add a padding padding left here of 25px, and this right here gives some space for the check mark on the left side. We're going to say position and make this relative and a font size of 0.9 EM, so basically 90% of the current font size, and the position of relative allows us to position the actual check mark absolutely a bit later on. Let's just save this here and refresh, and as we can see we get something like this. One last thing to do for the actual list items themselves is going to be adding the space between each one of these items. So back inside here, let's copy this class and then go down here. We're going to say :not, then we're going to say last dash child. So now essentially we are targeting every single feature that is not the last one. And for this, we're going to say margin dash bottom and set this to be 0.5 EM, save this and refresh, and now we get something like this. So anyway, let's now move on to adding that check mark on the left side, and for this we're going to be using CSS pseudo elements. So back inside here, let's copy this class once again, and we're going to say : before. And for those of you who don't know what this is, essentially by saying : before, we're creating a virtual HTML element in CSS to actually include on the left side before the actual list item, and that of course is going to be the actual check mark. So to get the check mark to display, we're going to use content and set this to be \2714, and 2714 is going to give us a check mark icon. Okay, we're going to say color and set this to be #009578, the same color you used in your actual title bar, in your actual header. You can of course also choose to use the generic green color for a check mark, entirely up to you. I'm going to say left and make this 0, as well as a position of absolutes, and of course this right here explains why we needed to use position relative just up here. So now saving this and refreshing gives us this right here. As we can see, the check marks are now in place. Also, I do want to point out that if we happen to go over to different lines or multiple lines here, so something like this, for example, the padding left, make sure that we don't end up having the text here on the left side. Cool. So anyway, let's go back inside here and just put this back to feature number 1, and then move on to adding the bottom section there, which I like to call essentially the whole actions area, because all of these elements right here are typically for the user to take some sort of action, so buy the product or things like that. So of course this section is going to be the actions section. So back inside the index HTML, let's make a new div just below the description part with a class of pricing-plan _ actions, and inside here we can make 4 elements. So the first one's going to be a paragraph tag with a class of pricing-plan _ cost, and inside here we can include the actual cost for the service. For example, we can just say $68. We can make another paragraph tag right here, this time a class of _ text, and this one we can say per month, for example, or per year, etc. And we can make also down here an anchor tag or an A tag with a class of pricing-plan _ button. We're going to set the href to be // just for demonstration purposes, and set the text to be something like purchase. Then down here we can make another pricing plan text class with some content of minimum spend $8.16 per month. So of course this section right here is for something like this, so minimum spend, or things like, you know, money back guarantees or things like that. So anyway, let's save this here and refresh once again, and we get something like this. So let's now move on to styling up, of course, that actions section. So back inside the CSS, let's target the pricing-plan _ actions class. For this, we can say padding and make this 25px, the same amount that is used in the description section just up here. We can also say border top and make this 1px solid and then a light grey, so triple E. We can set a display of flex and a flex direction of column. This right here is going to help with centering. Okay, so now saving this and refreshing gives us something like this. Okay, and now we can move on to styling up the button. So inside here, we can say pricing dash plan underscore underscore button, and we can say first up display and make this inline dash block and a margin of 15px and then auto. We can also say padding and make this 8px and then 20px. So of course 8px top and bottom and 20px left and right, and a text decoration of none to remove the default underline, and a text color of 009578, the same color used of course just above the decode green, and a background of white. This right here is just to guarantee we actually get a white background no matter what the background of the button is. Okay, we can also say border radius and make this 5 pixels, as well as a border of 1px and then solid. Then of course once again that decode green color. Okay, cool. If I can actually get it to be auto completed, maybe not. So 009578. Let's set a text transform to be uppercase, just sort of draw the user in, just to draw the user in a bit more, and also a letter spacing of 0.02 em. So basically, the uppercase letters look nice with a letter spacing of that amount right there, as well as a font weight of bold. So now saving this and refreshing gives us this right here, a perfectly centered button. So now let's move on to actually including a hover class for the pricing plan button. We can just say pricing plan button, then colon hover. We can say background and set this to be once again the same background color. And we can also, once again not auto completing, 9578, and set the actual text color to be white. So now saving this and refreshing and then hovering over the button gives us this right here. So let's move on to styling up each one of these text items. We'll do the actual cost first. So back inside here, let's target the pricing dash plan underscore underscore cost class. We can make the margin here to be 0 and a text align of center. We can set the font size to be 2 em, as well as an actual color of black. So of course, the reason for the black color is to just sort of separate the cost text and make it more apparent compared to the rest of the text within the actual plan. And that is all for the actual cost. We can move on to each one of these text items right here by targeting the pricing plan underscore underscore text class, and we're going to say font size and make this once again 90% of the base font size, as well as a text align of center and a margin of 0, 0. So 0, 0, and then 10px and then 0. So basically we're just saying top right, a bottom of 10 and a left of 0. So now saving this and refreshing once again, we have right here essentially the final product for the pricing plan itself, aside from the container and the actual table and things like that. So it's now time to move on to including that custom font. So if you head over to fonts.google.com, you can find many different fonts here. I recommend choosing a sans serif font for something like this. I'm going to search for Lato, and since we used a font weight up here of 300 and 400, we want to make sure that we actually choose a font which has that 300 and 400 font weight. So Lato is perfect. I'm going to go inside here and press the plus button, and then up here I'm going to say customize and just also select the light 300 to include both those fonts, but also the bold for any bold text. So now we have 300, 400 and then 700. So we can then embed the font using a standard import, so something like this. Going to copy this link tag and then paste it inside the head of the HTML. Of course, alternatively, you could import it through CSS using this syntax right here. Anyway, once this is done, we can just go down to the usage section down here, we can see to use it, we say font family Lato and then sans serif as the backup font. So back inside here, let's set the base font family for the pricing plan to be Lato and then sans serif. So now saving this right here and refreshing should now show the font we just included, and it's working perfectly fine. So now the last thing to do is to of course style it. That way it appears and looks something like this. So we might actually just work on creating this recommended plan in the center here to bring some emphasis or an optional emphasis to one of your plans. So let's just do that first by going back inside here. And we're going to add a new class to the pricing plan main class. And this is going to be pricing dash plan dash dash highlighted. Okay, so basically this is a modifier class for the pricing plan, and of course the highlighted suggests that it's going to be an emphasized or highlighted version of a pricing plan, things like recommended or specials and things like that. So anyway, let's go inside the pricing table CSS file and go up to the pricing plan section, and we're going to say pricing dash plan dash dash highlighted. And for this one, we're going to do a few simple things here. We're going to say box shadow and make this 0, 0, 15px and then RGBA 0, 0, 0 and then 0.4 of course. It's just making some extra emphasis compared to the default used up here with the 5 and 0.2. This is of course 15 and 0.4. So now saving this and refreshing of course gives us this right here, a bit more emphasized, and back inside here we can also set a transform property to be scale and then 1.05 just to make it a tiny bit bigger than the rest of the plan, so something like that. Okay, so we can now move on to including this recommended or special sort of top bit here, and for this it's going to be really straightforward. Let's just go back inside the HTML and just make a new div just above the header here. This will just say pricing dash plan underscore underscore special dash text, so quite a generic name right there. Let's just put recommended inside there for the text. So now saving this and refreshing gives us this right here. Let's just apply some basic CSS styling to of course make it look a bit nicer. For this we can go down to the bottom here and we can say pricing dash plan underscore underscore special dash text, and for this one we can say padding and make this 10px, a text align of center, a font weight of bold or 700, a color or text color of white, and a background, and this background value right here is going to be a slightly darker version of the background which you used for the actual header. You know what, it makes more sense to put this rule set just above the header section right here, so let's put it right there. So this background is going to be hash and then 007C64. This of course is a darker version of this color right here. We can also say right here box shadow, and we're going to make this 00 10px RGBA 000 0.2. We're going to make this an inset shadow, so sort of like an inside shadow. So now saving this and refreshing is going to change the styling right there to make it look a lot nicer. So now that is basically done. Of course, you may want to combine the usage of the highlighted plan with the actual special text element. So anyway, let's move on to making the actual layout so it looks something like this. It's going to be really easy. Let's go back inside here and just duplicate this section another 2 more times. So we can just say 1 and then 2. And for these 2 ones, let's put the special text and the highlighted only in the center section. So keep that right there. Up here, of course, remove this recommended and remove also this class right here. So now saving this gives us something like this. Okay, that didn't work. Let's find out why. So we've got section, of course, put that back. Try again, save and refresh, and we can see we get something like this. So now we can, of course, just use a flex box here to lay out these plans. So let's make a new wrapper around each one of these sections. We're going to call this wrapper pricing plan container, and keep in mind that this keep in mind that this section or this part of the video is going to be totally dependent on your own situation and website. Of course, this solution right here with the Flexbox and this container may not work perfectly for you, but it does certainly work for me for demonstration purposes, and you might take some tips from this to make it work for you. Anyway, let's now go inside the CSS and go down to the bottom here. I'm going to target the pricing-plan-container class, and for this one, we're going to set the display to be flex, align items of center, so center right here, and a justify content of center. So these two are going to, of course, vertically and horizontally align the actual plans. And finally, a padding of 10px right here. Let's save this and refresh, and we get something like this. And now it's looking perfectly fine. And that's it. That's how to create a pricing table or pricing plan using pure HTML and CSS. I'll be leaving the code for this in the video description, so make sure you check that out if you want to. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.